of things that are attributes of Mars, what its level of gravity is, what its atmosphere is like, temperatures, a day-night cycle, how long is the Martian year, things like that, to give them a little bit of orientation. We point out that Mars really is an alien place for us. If we were going to be on the surface of Mars, we would need to be wearing an EVA suit. We would need to be able to deal with the environment. So we're talking about Mars, a different place, and yet a very interesting place. One of the things that I always point out to kids is that because Mars has no open liquid water on the surface, the land mass is equivalent to all the continents of Earth put together. That is a big place to explore. So there's lots to see, lots to do. And depending on time, we talk about the Valles Marineris, the biggest canyon, the Olympus Mons, the biggest volcano, things that make Mars interesting. So we get them to think about going into space as scientists, geologists, biologists, what have you, going to Mars in a scenario not unlike the Mars Desert Research Station or FMars, where we're going to be out exploring Mars. So that's the context for this little exercise that we're going to do with them. So they are imagining themselves as an astronaut in their habitat, and they're going to prepare to go out for 4 hours, let's say, or 6 hours on an expedition with one other person or maybe multiple people. What are you going to take with you to do your job? What would be useful and what wouldn't be useful, and why on Mars? Okay, so the first thing we always do when we're about to embark on this exercise is to ask for a volunteer astronaut. There's always hands that go up. Okay, and what we found was, and this is just for effect, but kids really like this, is we have a costume astronaut. Okay. I don't remember where we got this, but it works very well, and they love putting it on. Is that on eBay? Okay. Well, anyhow, this is a part of a costume, and we found by experience that it isn't worth the time to try to get them fully costumed in this. Okay, just wearing the helmet is enough. Okay, so we usually get a boy or a girl to come up, and we put the helmet on them, and we say, you know, you're our astronaut. You're going out. You want to do it?
Yeah, we'll do it.
All right. Okay. Anyhow, we usually try to give, different people a turn. Okay. So we'll put this on. Are you okay in there? Okay.
All right.
Does he look like an astronaut?
He sure does.
Oh, yeah.
Camera.
Okay. And we talk about why it's dark. Then they always ask, why are there holes? And of course, I have to say, it's a Halloween costume, just use your imagination, okay? Okay, but here you are, you're on Mars, you're going out of your hab. Here's some things that you might consider taking with you if you were going out to do your job. For example, a walkie-talkie, okay? Would you want that? And usually they say,
Yeah.
oh yeah, and why? Why would you take this? Well, you need to communicate, right? You need to communicate with your fellow astronaut who's out there with you. You want to be able to communicate back to the hab. But there's a problem with this. He's in there, it's out here, okay? So one of the things we're learning is some of the things we need to take with us have to be part of your suit. They have to be part of the environment you take with you. Okay, rather than being external. Okay? Thank you. So, yes, we do want to communicate, but we probably would have it built in. The other thing we can point out is that if you go very far, you're going to go below the horizon. Well, on Earth, radio signals bounce off the ionization layer, but there is no such layer on Mars. So we have to think about how we're going to communicate over distance. Okay, so that's another design challenge. We wonder if our astronaut will need an umbrella. Okay, and we always open it up.
No.
Okay, Do you think an umbrella would be useful if you were going out on Mars?
It was radiation.
Well, there's a lot of ideas that come up. They all pretty well got the idea that it's not going to rain or snow, okay, because of the way the environment is on Mars. But you might want some shelter, and you might want protection from the ultraviolet radiation. Now, if you probably wouldn't use an umbrella. You would, if you were going out to a site where you were working, you would probably erect a shelter, okay? But ordinarily, the things we use an umbrella for, we wouldn't need on Mars. How about rope? Would that be useful if you were going out? Well, it depends on where you are and what you're going to try to do, but you may, for example, need to go from A to B down a slope or something, and you might want to anchor yourself. But we point out that this particular kind of rope would not be so good on Mars because the ultraviolet radiation would deteriorate it. So you have to understand the environment and not use a kind of rope that would get weak if it were continually exposed to ultraviolet radiation. We have a lot more UV on Mars. So we have to use materials that will stand up to that.
Also probably doesn't need to be as heavy.
Might not need to be as heavy. We ask kids what this is, and they always say it's a compass. Would a compass be good on Mars? Usually I get a bunch of yeses and a bunch of nos. Okay? And the answer is no, it would not be useful. We do need to know where we're going, and we do need to have reference points, but Mars does not have the same kind of magnetic fields as the Earth does. So we don't have a magnetic north on Mars. So this by itself would not be useful. But we might want, eventually, a GPS satellite system around Mars for navigation.
40 or 50 of us out.
Flashlight? Would that be useful on Mars? What do you think?
Yes.
Why? Why would a flashlight be useful?
You could also signal.
Sorry?
We need light.
We need light, particularly if you're going to explore some of the really interesting places on Mars, like caverns or crevices that are not in direct sunlight, because those are the sheltered areas where life is more likely to be found. We know that the surface of Mars itself is bathed in ultraviolet light. There are peroxides in the soil. It's very hostile. But there are protected places, so we definitely might want to go exploring some caves on Mars. Well,
No.
this is always a good one because although you probably wouldn't take a pack of Uno out to do your work, we do want to point out that if astronauts are going to Mars, they're going to be there for 18 months or so. It's not all work. We need some recreation, we need some fun things to do, and whether it's an actual pack of Uno or whether it's some computer games or something they do interactively for back home, we do need something a little different. How about something like this?
Thank you.
Well, yeah, we'll probably make a photographic record of what we're doing. And it probably wouldn't be a clunky thing like this, but we will want to do photography on Mars, digital photography probably. Maybe it's built into your suit. Maybe you have something that's you can set up and take close-ups of, but cameras will be useful. Here's another interesting one, if I can find it in here. This is pretty beat up, but a notebook. What do you think? Would that be useful? Well, if you're a scientist on Mars, you're going to make observations of things. You're not going to be able to bring everything back to the hab to study it. So you're going to have to make some notes. So you're either going to do that videographically, or you're going to do an audio recording, or many people like to make drawings of things that they're doing, or write down some notes. The question is, if you did that, what kind of writing instrument would you use on Mars? Here's one of my clickable ballpoint pens. Would that be good on Mars? Not out in the field, because what's in here? There's ink, right? In many places and many times on Mars, it's quite cold, and this would freeze. So we might want to consider what the Soviets did when they went into space. They took lead pencils. That worked. Let's see. Water?
Inside your suit.
Yeah, but not this way, right? Because remember, you're inside, this is outside. You need to have, if you're going to be out there for a while and you're going to need to keep yourself hydrated, it's going to have to be part of your portable environment that you take. So that suit that you're wearing is becoming a lot less like a Halloween costume and a lot more like taking the house with you, okay? Depending on the age of the audience, they always ask about going to the bathroom. If we talk about hydrating yourself, what goes in comes out. You know, what do you do if you're out there for 6 hours and you gotta go? Okay, well, your environment suit has to handle that. Okay, so we sometimes talk about that a little bit, like the comical idea of astronauts wearing diapers, but they do. How about knee pads? Think that would be useful if you're exploring on Mars?
Knee pads?
Knee pads, yeah.
Definitely.
Oh, yeah, because what's a good geologist going to do? He or she is going to get down and dirty. Get right up there to the thing you're studying, but you're wearing an extremely valuable and piece of gear that is protecting you, and you don't want to damage it. So if you anticipate, getting down and dirty, you're going to have either something you can strap on or something that's already built into the stress points of your environment suit so that you can do the science that you're out there to do. Let's see. Not going to work on Mars, and why not? When you're outside? There's virtually no oxygen in the atmosphere, yes, and matches need oxygen to work. Inside your habitat, you could do something like this, but definitely not out. So if you're not going to take things like this with you. Okay, well, you're getting the idea of the sort of grab bag of things that you can put together that some might be useful to somebody that's going out on the Martian surface, and other things are not useful. And the idea is to get the kids relating to this different environment, some of which is familiar, but some of which is not familiar and quite different. One of the things I especially like to show them is this. Okay, would you take this out, into the Martian environment?
Yep.
Well, you might. One of the things you have to remember about the Martian environment is it's very dusty. And we heard Jeffrey Landis talking about how all the dust conditions that they ran into. We knew that was coming. Okay, we knew Mars is dusty. And one of the things that happens to tape out in the environment is that it gets coated and it loses its sticky. Okay, but I suspect that duct tape will be useful on Mars. And I do like to point out to them that duct tape saved astronaut lives on Apollo 13 when they had to jury-rig the oxygen systems using duct tape to put them together when they weren't designed to work together. So duct tape could well go to Mars.
Carry your suits with the duct tape on.
Perhaps.
And the box and the bag would be useful for putting your samples in.
Here's another one they relate to. You're out in your environment suit for 4 hours, and your nose starts to run. What do? Well, you're not going to use tissues like this. You're going to have to either suck it up or you're going to have some other way to deal with it. But kids really do relate to those practical things, okay, things that they deal with every day. And it's challenging for them to kind of put themselves in a different environment and say, well, I'm still a human being and these things are going to happen to me, or I'm going to experience this. How would I have to think about that happening on Mars? And the flip side of that is, once they've realized that there are some ways to approach some of these daily